Hello, friends, and welcome to Binge O'Clock, the podcast where we watch something and then we talk about it. I'm Joy Selden. I've seen almost everything.
I'm Danielle, and I've seen almost nothing.
And here we are to talk about Galavant, the end of season 1.
Woo!
Episodes 7 and 8.
See, I was trying not to woohoo at the beginning of every episode, every podcast episode, but I feel like season 1 finale, it's appropriate.
Yes, a woohoo is appropriate for finales, I think. Mid-season and season finales. I would accept.
It's either
or
like
that
a
could just be
woohoo or
your
like
catchphrase.
a big oof, you know? I feel like I gave one of our episodes like a ugh. This was not one of those. I felt pretty good about this finale. Pretty good. Like, okay. I don't know. I have feelings.
It's not a slog. A lot happens. There you go. I said it.
Nah.
But a lot of plot stuff kind of happens and a bunch of, twists and turns happen. And then you were sort of like dropped in this like, not cliffhanger. That's kind of the wrong word, but like this really open-ended ending.
Yeah. No, I think cliffhanger is an okay way to describe it. Well, I'm curious. I have to assume that they knew they were getting a second season, right?
I'm actually not sure.
Okay. I don't know. Like, the way it came together and the way it was written feels to me like they knew they were getting a second season.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I don't know. I think that there was a lot to like in these 2 episodes, and we can get into it. But overall, I felt like the ending was a little bit like, let's come up with excuses to have a second season. Like, what if this thing we've never talked about before happens, and this thing we've never talked about before happens, in order to continue the drama. Because, if the OTP gets together at the end of season 1, what are you going to do in season 2? Just have them happy? No one wants to watch that.
No one watches that. No one ever watches a happy couple in anything. No one comes here for that.
No one. So it felt like a little bit of that to me.
That could be true. That could be true. I would like to think that they knew they were going to get renewed pretty early on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard to say.
It's fine.
I don't know.
Should we get into it? Episode 7. My cousin Izzy.
Let's get into this with my favorite person in the entire world.
Cousin Harry.
This episode. No, not Cousin Harry.
Oh, I thought
Although he is so cute. Can we talk about Cousin Harry for a second? He's adorable.
Like as a child, dear listeners.
Yes.
Not as a child.
He's so cute. Not as husband material, which apparently he is within the canon of the show. But he's just adorable.
Like very picture perfect child. So cute.
Yeah. I especially like that Kingsley, who we barely like for the entire show, even is just like, yeah, he's cute. To give you an idea of how adorable this kid is. No, the episode opens with one of my favorite actors who plays Galavant's father.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to get this rant out now so that we don't do this in season 2. But they eventually recast his father.
Oh.
So, yeah. So Anthony Stewart Head plays him here, and it's very quick. It's like like a less than 5-minute opener.
Yeah.
He's there. He's telling his child some damaging patriarchy things. Men don't cry. Men don't share their feelings.
Right?
Men don't talk.
Yeah.
And because you're going to be a knight and you have to save all your, you have to save all your energy for that big moment that you're going to have.
All of those tricky thoughts and feelings will just jumble up your mind and distract you from the moment in battle in which you can claim your glory. Yeah, very. I mean, surprise, Galavant has daddy issues.
Color us surprised. That we were not surprised.
But continue with the
no one was surprised.
Sir Anthony Stewart Head rant.
So he's there very briefly. And again, this trope of like, if he's in love, he must be miserable because his wife, who's like the love of his life, totally cuts off his song mid, ballad. And he even tells Galavant never to get married. Which, like, you can also see where Galavant, I think, explained to us in the very first episode how he had, like, sworn off love.
Yeah.
Because he watched his parents argue every single day, and he was just like, well, why would I ever fall in love?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
And you can kind of see that, right? Like, you can kind of see that, like, he was kind of a sensitive kid, and his dad was trying to toughen him up, but, like, also learning by example. He keeps watching his parents and is just like, well, why on earth would I want to do that?
Right? Ooh, never, right?
Never.
And you're right,
And
he was a sensitive kid. I kind of like that. I kind of like that addition to his character. I like the fact that he was bullied and kids would tease him and steal his chainmail.
And they stole his chainmail.
And steal his chainmail. I'm like, oh, wee Galavant.
He was so small.
It's probably the most I've liked him so far in this show.
Right?
It's absolutely the most I've liked him so far in this show.
Like, this is also where, like, you get some of the humanizing, like, pieces of him, which is why I don't really ship him and Isabella until season 2, because he has to have this tiny, little, minuscule amount of growth.
He has to become an
make
actual
you actually
human first.
Yes. He's, you know, like, yes, he's conceited and smelly and all these other things, but he's also at his heart a romantic and, like, trusts people and, you know, all these other very good qualities, which he pushes down all the time, you know.
Because of dear old dad.
Dear old dad. And I was very excited because he's one of my favorite actors. We've talked about Buffy on the show briefly before. He's Giles from Buffy.
Alluded to Buffy before.
In case you missed it. He's also King. Oh, no. He's not Arthur's father, but it's in Merlin.
Oh, I've never seen that.
The king.
I haven't seen it. Surprise.
Mark it off on your bingo card. Mark off your free space. Danielle hasn't seen it. To be fair, I actually also haven't seen. I've seen some episodes of it because I had friends who were very obsessed with it. And I was like, well, I'll give this a shot. And it's not that I disliked it, but little mini tangent with my other tangent. But it's that it was campy in a way that I had, like, outgrown at the time that I tried to watch it. So there was a moment of, you know, this used to be a thing I liked because I watched it in several other TV series. But because I watched all those other TV series, I was kind of done with it.
Okay.
If that makes
sense.
any sense.
No. That makes sense to me.
It was just like, it was too much camp for the time when I was watching it.
Yeah, and sometimes you just have too much of a good thing.
Yeah.
But do you have any sense of why he was recast? Was it just like a scheduling issue, maybe, or?
You know, I don't know. I actually wonder if he was. I mean, not to be this person because I don't actually know. Maybe I can do some research before we get into that episode of season 2. But like he, like I wonder if he was too expensive.
Oh, interesting.
Or if there was like a scheduling issue, or like you said, or if it's just like, you know, it just didn't line up. I do know after Buffy, I think he tried to take fewer acting roles because he wanted to spend some family time because he was basically away from his family filming in LA for several months out of the year.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, you know, and his family's in England and he's in LA and there's a time difference. So it's like, you know, and he has kids and like he has a farm and, you know, he just wanted to be like with his family for a while. So I can kind of understand if it was like just difficult for him to, you know, sort of keep doing his day job, essentially.
Right. Specifically in the US. You know?
Exactly. So he got a lot more, if I'm not mistaken, he got a lot more like British sort of home turf jobs.
I see.
After Buffy. But they were still sort of sporadic, like here and there. And again, I don't know if that's because he just wanted to spend more time with his family. But I was devastated when we got to the episode because there's a lead up of like Galavant's going to see his dad.
And you were like, he's
really
coming
excited.
back!
I was really excited. And then I was like pissed for the entire episode.
That would be, I understand that. That would be really disappointing to me.
I want to get it out now.
Okay.
So that I can be like, listeners, I was angry.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can I'll know it's coming. And this time I won't be as mad. And I won't just talk about how all the other ways that Anthony Stewart Head would have played this part.
I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. We're still going to get mad about it.
We're still going to get mad
when
about
it happens, I will get mad with you. And I actually do appreciate the warning because, I mean, I like Anthony Stewart Head. I have nothing against him. I just don't know him or his work well enough to say like, oh, he's my favorite actor in the world, you know?
Sure.
But I was excited to see him on screen. And because of his costume, it actually took me a hot second to figure out precisely who he was. Because the chainmail just covers up his face just so and gets rid of some of his more defining qualities.
Yeah, definitely. Was there a moment?
Well, I could tell. I was like, this kind of looks like him, but is it just someone who looks like him or is it him? And then when he started singing, that's when I put it together.
Yeah, there you go.
I recognized his singing voice.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And it was just like, and also it's such a perfect choice for like someone's dad.
Yes.
Like I feel like Anthony Stewart Head really like was just like, yeah, just dad standard.
Yeah.
Like,
my dad vibes. I'm just going to walk
dad
up on
vibes.
set with my dad vibes. And he crushed it.
He did.
So that's
Crushed
that's the first song in the episode, which is the Moments of Glory song. I haven't looked up
Moment
a single
in the Sun, which is a running thread through the episode because poor Galavant keeps trying to get his moment in the sun, but he's trying to get it for like the wrong reason, so it keeps getting messed up.
I kind of enjoy that even when it finally lands, skipping ahead slightly, it's just underwhelming. Like it is not
so dumb. It's so dumb.
Like it's not
Instead of kissing her,
yes,
he finishes the song.
And she's like, and that's it? That's what we were building to? Come on. And she's not wrong. She's not wrong.
She's not wrong.
Okay.
She's not wrong at all. So, yes, so that's sort of our opener that like pre-establishes how Galavant will react in this scenario.
Yes,
right?
Yes. And then he proceeds to do that for 20 minutes. Well, all of episode 7 and a decent amount of episode 8, actually. He spends like 1.5 episodes just actively ignoring everything other than victory, his moment in the sun, and the plan. Which, again, it is hard to like this man. I just don't. I'm not there yet. I'm still not there.
I know. And this is, it's especially annoying because this is supposed to be the thing he's good at.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. Like this is supposed to be him at his A game.
Yeah.
And he keeps messing it up. And like, you know, there's 2 or 3 moments where Galavant has the upper hand on everybody around him and could get them all out of jail. And he doesn't do it. And he stops mid-rescue and does what he wants.
Right.
Or what he thinks other people want. And I'm like, the point is to get you all out of jail.
The point is to save everyone. And listen, like sometimes it's cute because he's like saving Isabella from eating something she's allergic to. Fine. And other times...
Yeah, super cute, but you could have like held on to that sword and like still fought your way out.
Okay. But, and sometimes it's just annoying stuff, like actively ignoring everything Isabella is trying to say, and then 3 minutes later being shocked when her cousin shows up. And I get why she's so mad. She's like, dude, I tried to tell you.
I know. Okay, so let's talk about Cousin Harry, which is hilarious.
Love Cousin Harry.
I love the setup for this joke.
Okay.
It's such a good setup because you have Isabella's parents, and they're like, hey, guess what? Cousin Harry is coming to save us.
Wait.
And Isabella's
Bye. I love that they hate Galavant.
I know. I know. They can't stand him.
Like when they're talking about him.
Listeners, they hate him so much.
When her dad literally goes, third person alert, when Galavant talks
Third person alert. Third person alert. What a waste of space, I think he says at one point. Space. And like even Isabella is like, so we need to like endear you to my parents because right now you're not really selling them
like
on this.
You. Sorry, I felt like I had to insert that because they are not into the rescue plan at all. Because partly because they hate Galavant, and partly because they know Cousin Harry's on his way.
Yes, and Cousin Harry is Isabella's fiance, betrothed, whatever.
Betrothed. I like it. Yeah.
Isabella has the best reaction of just like, oh, Cousin Harry, really? And they're like, well, yeah, I mean, you are betrothed to him. Yeah, but the age difference is so weird.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it's the queen who says, straight up, Isabella. Our family tree goes straight up.
I wrote that down. Straight up, no branches. And I was like,
and also, he's my cousin. Do I have to marry my cousin? Straight up, Isabella. Oh, so funny. Well, that's like joke number one, right?
Yeah.
But the setup is that you think Cousin Harry is going to be much older because of course you do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened. It was a much older man and a much younger woman. And so when Cousin Harry actually shows up, he's a boy.
Yes.
He's like 9?
Not even.
I don't know. You're the professional.
I think
7?
He's less.
8?
I would put him at 7 or 8. Yeah.
7 or 8?
Uh-huh.
He's probably 7 or 8. I mean, not to spoil it too much, but there's definitely like in season 2, there's definitely a repeat of like all he wants is toilet humor.
Classic. That's
and the jester is like, right? And the jester is just like, this is the easiest job I've ever had. Just blowing raspberries all day. This kid loves it. You know what I mean? Like 7 or 8, solid 7 and 8.
Yeah.
But what's funny about that is Isabella's like 12 years older, I guess. So maybe she's like 20. Still, the funniest thing is she's like, I mean, when he's 30, I'll be in my early 40s. And everyone kind of goes,
well, that's not that bad. And she goes,
what's the big deal?
I guess it's not.
And I mean, of course, the big issue is like, but I don't want to marry a child because right now he is a child and he is very keen on marrying me. And that's weird. I love that they turned that joke on its heel. It's so good. It's just such a nice reveal. And it adds, and of course, Harry is he's adorable and charming.
And so precocious. He talks like a grown-up. Oh, the last time I saw you was at our engagement party.
Well, he talks like a grown-up until he doesn't. Or I guess like he talks like a grown-up as a royal.
Yeah.
I have to go home or Mummy will be mad.
Exactly. Like you could see an adult royal saying something very similar to that.
Exactly.
Wait, how does he introduce himself? Like Mummy's big special boy or something?
Oh yes, Mummy's special boy. And Mummy's special boy or something. Oh no, is that all it is?
It is I, Prince Harry. I wrote it down. Ruler of Hortensia and my mommy's special big boy. Also,
spoilers, I don't know if we ever meet his mom.
Oh no. Aw. Why?
Which is a little sad. Well, because I mean, the story is really about like him.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Being this very tiny boy prince who's just absolutely precious.
His pointed
and we must protect at all costs, but also he shouldn't, right? Like this tiny child has an army. Okay, cool. But anyway, yes. So Isabella's parents are just like, Cousin Harry is coming to save us. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, the royals that we've already sort of been introduced to are having this bit of a tiff of like, Kingsley's annoyed at Richard because he's in the way. And Richard's just like, Kingsley shouldn't even be here. He didn't even want the throne. Why is he even here? And, they argue. And it ends up being like,
straight calls Kingsley her future husband.
Right in front of Richard, yeah.
Right in front of Richard. Mm-hmm. So that's how she's playing this game.
Yeah. She is playing like, 3D chess or something. She's playing 4th degree chess.
Oh, yeah.
They're both such man children, right? Like, it's really easy to manipulate. Like, Kingsley might be much, much older, but Kingsley barely has any drive anyway.
No, he's really not all that,
Yeah.
Like, Richard made him out to be this big bully, and he is a bully, right? And to be this, like, super strong man sort of character, and he's not. He's wildly unimpressive, which makes sense.
Yeah. I mean,
right?
like,
he's a mediocre royal.
Yeah, he's a mediocre royal. He's probably got more whatever patriarchy man nonsense we think a king should have in this story, like within the canon of this show.
Except for the fact that he literally doesn't even want to be king and would rather just be off killing things, he's not really king material. Which is fine, because that's not why Magdalena wants him there. She only wants him there, I guess, to get rid of Richard.
Exactly.
Which still is a very convoluted plan to me. I really, really feel like she could have just gotten rid of Richard on her own, but fine. Just given what I know about her. I feel like she could have skipped a step here.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I think, there's a number in there of how mean does Magdalena want to be?
Yeah.
And yes, she could have easily gotten rid of Richard herself. Mm-hmm. But she also, I feel like there's a part of her that just can't be bothered.
Yeah, maybe it's partly that, and maybe I don't think that the people in their kingdom have any kind of respect for Richard. Otherwise, I would say maybe she doesn't want to be the person who committed regicide, and she would rather someone else be blamed for that. But I don't think they have any sorts of, clearly they don't have any sorts of feelings about the royals, because we do need to talk about Gwyn and the chef eventually.
Yes.
However, okay, putting a button on episode 7. Prince Harry has arrived. Galavant is trying his best to keep his brain free of emotions and feelings and thoughts, right?
And has
Isabella.
been chosen by King Richard to fight in his stead.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
Has chosen Gareth.
Exactly. The whole framework of the episode is actually around this duel, where classically, the way it's always done, the king never has to fight themselves. And so
Which
Galavant,
I also just really love King Richard explaining that.
I know, I love it.
Doing a little aside. I was just but see, sometimes he's weirdly charming. Yes, he commits genocide, but sometimes he's weirdly charming.
Sometimes there's a little something there, especially when you're comparing him to characters like Magdalena and Kingsley, where it's there's really nothing to love there. I like Magdalena as a character just because I think it's entertaining to watch her on screen, but she's an awful human. There's nothing redeeming about her.
I know.
Other than the fact, I guess, that she kind of crawled her way out of the dirt on her own, which, fine, I'm not going to turn my nose up at that.
The only thing, it's not exactly redeeming, but the one thing I like about Magdalena is Madalena.
Magdalena?
I feel like I've been saying it wrong this whole time. It doesn't matter. With the villain. The one thing I really like about her is she tends to see things as they truly are. Mm-hmm. Which is why she's able to read Galavant real fast and be like, oh, you're thinking about that dumb crap your dad fed you.
Yep.
And it's stuff like that I'm like, see, that's interesting. And even Galavant is every now and then there's a glimmer of the woman I fell in love with. And then she screams at a servant and he's like, and it's gone. But anyway, continue.
No, I was really just going to sum up and say that the long and short of it is that the duel gets postponed, right? Because Galavant is about to fight Gareth. It's all going to be great. He's going to have his moment. Prince Harry shows up. Prince Harry's adorable. Now Galavant's head is full of emotions and feelings because now he's discovered that Isabella is engaged, and surprise, that doesn't sit well with him because he's secretly in love with her and deeply in denial, right? I kind of love how he says, and now this is taking up space where my fight thoughts should be. I'm like, your fight thoughts?
I know.
Your fight thoughts, buddy?
I know. I love that moment also.
Which is how we get to the pre-duel feast, where King Richard is actually trying to, what's the word I'm looking for? Where he's trying
to stall.
Stall, that's exactly the word I was saying. He's trying to stall because he doesn't actually want Gareth to die, but in order for him to win, Gareth has to die. So he's like, whenever another royal arrives, it's tradition to give them a pre-duel feast. Which, I really just wanted to mention the feast because I wanted to talk about Gwyn.
You want to talk about Gwyn and Vincenzo?
Vincenzo! I'm so happy we finally have a name for him.
We finally have a name.
Okay.
I think I said this in the first episode, but I don't remember. I feel like I was like, oh, wait, he does have a name. I'm not going to spoil it for you or something. We'll call him Chef.
I kind of remember us looking it up on IMDb, and I thought that I looked it up and it literally just said chef, which would be a huge oversight on IMDb's part if that's actually what it says. At any rate, Vincenzo and Gwen, we must talk about these two.
I know. So Gwen is, and I know we mentioned it before, that Gwen's like highly practical chambermaid to the queen. She sees the sword swinging above her, and she's just like, look, we're going to die. Yep. Either the current king is going to kill us or the new king's going to kill us. Like, it's going to happen.
Yep.
And so her decision, actually, initially, she's just like, it's all bleak. It's all terrible.
Yeah, and let's not get together.
Yeah, what's the use of like having any kind of happiness when it could all be dashed to pieces in like a day? Mm-hmm. Which, on the one hand, I kind of understand, and on the other hand, I'm like, oh, but you deserve love.
Right, and isn't that a reason to find love rather than a reason to push it away? I don't know.
Right.
At any rate,
she has like a second thought about this, and she comes to Vincenzo, and she's like, I take it back. I don't think I want to spend my last few hours in a terrible, bleak future. But, what if instead of cooking them a meal, we added some stuff to the food?
And then we get a truly fantastic Evil Plan song. My second favorite song in these two episodes. I bet you can guess what my first favorite is. However, I love it. Like, I like that her second thought is, hold on. When war breaks out, who suffers? The poor, right? And then she's like, let's change the ending. Let's change the ending. If we kill all the royals, there will be no war. And then we will come out on top. And then they sing this just fantastic little duet, which is lovey and full of death and poison.
I know. It's just so much gallows humor.
Yes.
It's just it's just as gross as their first duet, which I appreciate. And it's like also devious, and they're talking about murder and
murder most. What's the word? I'm
foul?
Really foul. I'm really struggling with my word retrieval today.
That's okay.
This duet actually beat out their love song for me. I think
really?
I
like this one more than that?
I like the murder. I like the goofy little murdery song. I mean,
This is why you're the jamak.
Yes, true. I'm like, ooh, a little murder in the afternoon.
Just a little murmur. Just having a little murder. I'm not gonna lie, I do love this song. This is like top 3. I still prefer the, their first duet, probably. But this is in my top 3 for sure.
I mean, now that I'm done with season 1, I try not to listen to soundtracks until I'm done with a season, because otherwise I'm going to forget myself halfway through the soundtrack and then accidentally listen on and get spoiled. So now that I've finished season 1, I can listen to the season 1 soundtrack for Galavant. And I'll listen to
there you go.
I'll listen to the 2 songs separate from the episodes.
Back to back.
And back to back, and see which one I actually like better when it comes to like the musical content. But as for right now, liking the murder. So yes, Gwen and Vincenzo have a plan. Which
Well, they have a plan, which is to poison all the royals, but Vincenzo backs out.
Kind, beautiful, sweet Vincenzo.
Our chef can't do it.
It's great because there's a little bit of a fake out, which, listen, we all knew that this show wasn't going to wipe out the royals, right? So somehow, some way, this wasn't going to work. But I like the little fake out where initially Gareth and the king are talking, and then everyone around the table starts coughing and sneezing and choking, and it's like, oh, this is it! And Gwen's getting so excited. And it turns out...
Die, scum!
Vincenzo has been feeding these royals his entire life, and he just can't, doesn't have it in him to kill them.
But he can make them suffer because he knows exactly what everyone's allergic to.
Yep. And so he just gives them all of the foods they're allergic to. And I like that Gwen is I think that Gwen is disappointed, but she's also happy to have spent the last few hours of her life with someone as kind-hearted as the chef. And I was like, aw, that's cute.
I know. And then they actually share a kiss. Like, I love that this is the moment they actually kiss each other. And it's just as gross as you think it is. It's so funny.
You have a cobweb in your hair.
Yeah. You have a family of spiders living in your hair. Your breath reminds me of that time I found my uncle's body at the bottom of a well. It's very precious. What an interesting date night. I like that she doesn't just run away.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I like that she stays with him and is just like, you remind me that there's still some good in this world, right?
Yes.
Like, and maybe that's what you should be celebrating on the eve of where you may or may not survive. Right?
Exactly.
I mean, not for nothing, but the chef gets caught immediately because it's like, hey, we're all super sick. And Kingsley, drags him in by his ear.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I say we kill the chef. And, again, Richard is like, no, if anybody's going to kill the chef, I'm going to kill the chef. Mm-hmm. And Richard has after having a conversation with Gareth, has his moment of, I'm going to fight you myself for the first time in the history of these royal families. I am going to fight my own battles. And then Kingsley just says, yep, looking forward to watching Gareth kill you.
And now it's the king versus Gareth. The only other thing of note that happened in this episode is that we finally get Galavant's love speech. Galavant finally admits to himself that he loves Isabella, and his favorite thing in the world to do is talk to her. I kind of like that they argued for 4 hours over Sid's thank you and still disagree about it.
It just meant thank you, Sid.
So passive aggressive. And so he does his little love speech like, oh, I don't know. I think he says something about wanting to be her kind of hero, and if he shut himself off, he wouldn't be her kind of hero. Blah, blah, blah. Doesn't really matter.
It's schmaltzy and cute.
It's pretty.
But this is the character growth that we were looking for.
It's schmaltzy. It's cute. He doesn't kiss her. Instead, he finishes his song as established. And I think that moment is why episode 8, where Galavant just continues to not really buy into their relationship, for lack of a better word, irritated me a little bit. Because I was like, so love speech, end of episode 7. I know that Galavant is an oblivious character, and I know that he's not going to become a different person overnight, but they didn't have him continue with everything that he was hung up on before. All of a sudden, he now has commitment issues, ? And I was like, where did this come from? Where did this come from?
I know.
Because he didn't have commitment issues when he was falling in love with Magdalena. Certainly not. So what?
Live in a cottage with a farm and a couple of kids and a whatever.
Right? But literally the thing that's keeping him away from Isabella is that kissing her would be a forever kiss. And he doesn't want to... Come on, man. Just came out of nowhere. I just thought it was... I don't know how you feel about that.
I mean, it's just so hard to pinpoint why he wouldn't kiss her. Because... it doesn't fit in with the character that we've established.
That's what's annoying to me about it. It feels like they wrote episode 8 knowing in the back of their heads these two characters can't end up together. So how do we keep these two characters apart? And then they decided, and instead of just making it about Cousin Harry or her parents or any number of other things, they were like, commitment issues, obviously. This is the one. This is it.
I know. It's very frustrating. I'm not going to sit here and try to explain it because I don't really know why they did it. The only thing I can come up with is it's a little bit of fill in your own nonsense of not to get too head shrinky about it. But like, you know, maybe in the back of his mind, he always knew that Magdalena was never going to be as real as he wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And like having something real with Isabella, again, because he feels miserable and that's how you know it's real love. Whatever. It's fine.
Yeah.
They really stomp on that like trope into the ground.
Into the ground. I mean, even more so in this episode in particular.
Right?
I guess Isabella's parents are happy together.
Isabella's parents are happy together.
They seem.
I do love drunk Galavant flirting with her mom. Being like, I'm really excited about Isabella getting older.
Way to keep it
high and tight.
Gross.
Gross. Galavant, gross.
I mean, it's like one moment he's calling her pretty Izzy, and the next moment he's hitting on her mom, and I'm like, bleh.
But I mean, I think it's not a commitment issue of, you know, he can't possibly ever commit. I think it's like committing to her when he is so not the person, you know what I mean? Like it took how long for him to realize that like maybe you shouldn't be the person your dad wanted you to be?
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's still fighting with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know that it's commitment issues so much as it is he needs to be the hero that saves all of them.
Right.
Which is not exactly the same thing. But like,
No,
had he
him
worked with them, it would have been like, hey, you know this castle. It is literally your castle. What's the easiest way out of this dungeon? King and queen and princess who have been here for 40 years.
Him kissing her doesn't preclude him from being the hero who saves the day. And he, in the canon of the show, came to that realization in episode 7 when Magdalena called him out. And he was like, oh, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing it right now. You know? So it's like they gave him these two realizations in episode 7. And they probably would have just hit better if they gave those realizations to us in episode 8.
Right.
Maybe.
That's fair. That's fair.
Know?
I mean, maybe they could have moved it down. Maybe.
At any rate,
yeah, like
he won't kiss her. Oh, sorry. Keep going.
Well, I think where the disconnect happens is that he wants it to be the perfect moment to kiss her.
Mm-hmm.
And the perfect moment keeps not happening.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, he should have just kissed her in the banquet hall but he didn't do that.
Right after his little speech or any number of times when they were traveling together. But he didn't realize he was in love yet, so he didn't kiss her. Right. Now, the one thing I do appreciate about this is that all of this means that Isabella is the one who initiates every step of their relationship.
Right. She's also the one, spoilers, who does lean in to kiss him.
That's what I'm saying.
Because it's like, shut up.
Yep, like up to and including the kiss. She dictates every step of this relationship. Because if Galavant were left to his own devices, he would just like, I don't know, get drunk and collapse in hay and maybe save the day now and then. You know?
Maybe, occasionally. But so Galavant gets it into his mind that he is going to go talk to King Richard.
Mm-hmm.
And then the two of them together are going to go kill Kingsley. And then everything's all said and done. Mm-hmm. He can go on his way. Richard can go on doing whatever it is he's doing, I guess. Even though it would be like, hey, maybe stop occupying this kingdom that is not yours.
Right.
No, that's never on the table.
We didn't really get there. I think that maybe down the line they would have said something like, okay, take the jewel and go, you know, but
something.
Who knows?
Something. Put Magdalena in the dungeon.
I mean, there are 87 people left in this kingdom. Like, what are you still doing there? What's the point?
Right? But so his plan is not a terrible plan, except that he gets a little too drunk doing it.
Yes. Should we talk about their conversation in the bar?
Let's talk a little bit about their conversation in the bar, because I want to backpedal on one of the things I was talking about earlier.
Okay.
Which was King Richard's sexuality, because this is like a 90s problem, 90s and aughts problem that I think leaked into 2015.
Okay.
There was like a whole slew of television and media for a while that like labeled virgins incapable of understanding sexual intercourse at all on any kind of basic level.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they're portraying Richard.
Yes.
Remember when I was like, maybe he's ace because he just doesn't understand any of it?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like,
or doesn't have any desire for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Or at least doesn't have, it's not that he didn't have desire. It seemed to literally be that he didn't understand. Like, you were like, does he think he's telling her jokes in a room by themselves?
Oh,
and I was like, I don't know. You know?
Yeah.
Like, it's just the utter cluelessness of ever even imagining what the act is like or could feel like or anything. Like, not even in the realm. And it's like, like sometimes nowadays I would be like, well, that could be coded as ace because there are levels on the ace spectrum where it's just like, nope.
Yeah.
Not even a thought in my brain. Don't even care about it at all. Like.
All the way to kind of where King Richard, well, according to King Richard, right, where he is, which is like, well, I'm not really interested in that unless I actually love them and they actually love me.
Exactly.
Which still does put him on that spectrum.
I know. It's on the spectrum, just not where I thought it was. It was like, oh no, that's right. He's Demi. Shoot.
Well, you're not wrong.
But like,
still ace.
Television and movies had a really bad, but this is the thing though. For a long time, like virgins were just portrayed as these people who like couldn't even possibly comprehend sex.
Right. We're just
and
clueless.
Older versions, like especially older versions, like I'm talking about adults in their like 30s, 40s, 50s, who like it didn't even like the mechanics are a mystery. Everything about it is just totally, completely out of their realm of understanding. And I don't like that.
No, I know.
I feel like that is a misunderstanding of what happens.
Oh, 100%. Like he doesn't he doesn't have to literally imagine walking through someone's garden in order to be disinterested in sex. Unless he's in a loving relationship, Yeah. But,
yeah. I mean, it's just weird. It's just, and that's the level of comedy that I never really, I mean, like, I still don't like it. I never really appreciated it, where I'm just like, but that's not.
Yeah.
We're making fun of these people in the weirdest way. Like, that doesn't even make any sense.
Like, ew, you don't know what's, okay. And but also that's not how it is.
And it's not like, but that's not even where it even like that doesn't even land on the spectrum. Like all you have to do is have like it's fine. It's fine. But like I wanted to walk that back because I was like, you know what? I forgot that this was the standard portrayal of a virgin in their 40s. Is in his 40s, maybe his early 50s. I don't know.
Wherever.
He's got one of those faces that, like, he could be 35, he could be 65. We don't know.
No, 100%. That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, if you told me he was 45, like, I'd believe you. And if you told me he was 62, I would also believe you.
I love that actor to death. Like, he comes across as a real, like, Christopher Lloyd. Like, Christopher Lloyd has been 50 for, like, 30 years.
30 years.
And nobody, like, nobody has any idea what's going on. But... yeah, so I wanted to walk that back. Like, he's essentially Demi, which I also think is really precious and cute. Still maybe not the representation the Demis were looking for, where it's like...
still wish that it wasn't like a genocidal...
maniac?
Yeah,
So, like a sociopath or whatever it is.
Right. I would love that. But, guess we'll take representation where we can get it.
I know. I mean, this is the other thing, too, of like the infantilization of King Richard that I think gets skipped over a lot. We explore that more in season 2, where he's like, but I don't have to be a bully. I don't have to be a king. Like, I don't have to do any of this.
Yeah.
Like you take him out of the environment. And it's not even necessarily that he's a petulant child. Like, he would be had he had the power to actually do that. But, like, when he's on the run, he changes. Because he doesn't, he doesn't have servants and everything else for, it's one of those things where it's like, if you take away the privilege, like what actually happens.
Interesting. All right. Well, I'm intrigued by that journey for him.
I'm gonna try not to spoil the rest of it because
Okay.
I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it when it actually happens.
When it actually happens. Okay.
When it actually happens.
They're in the
So
bar.
that's the
They
bar.
get very drunk. They decide, Galavant convinces Richard that Richard should kill his brother Kingsley, or the two of them should kill Kingsley together. And then we get into my favorite song of these 2 episodes.
We're off on a secret mission.
It's a great song.
It's one of Nella's favorite songs also. It's like the pirate song and it's this
my favorite song. I think it is. I
In
went
the whole
back
show,
and watched
yeah.
it. It might be.
You rewound and watched the...
I rewound. I watched it
mission.
again. I'm not going to lie. I didn't rewind
Nice.
for any other song in this show. But I rewound for this one because it was very funny. And Galavant and Richard, or the 2 actors really, have so much good on-screen chemistry. They actually work great together. And that's one thing that makes me a little bit more excited for season 2. Which is that, I don't know how long they're going to keep Galavant and Isabella apart, but for as long as they do, I assume there's going to be a lot of Galavant and Richard together, which I'm
There's a lot of Galavant and Richard together.
very excited to see. Because they're
very
fantastic
good.
together.
I know. And I feel like we get some sweet Richard side in the bar. We find out that, yes, he's still a virgin, but, yes, he believed it should be with the person you love. And, he's a modern 13th century man. And it's and Galavant's you never
insisted.
made her. You never, insisted. And it's no. And,
I'll force a woman to
appalled.
marry me, but after that, I'm all about women's rights.
Yes.
I was like, what?
Which is arguably one of the best lines in the entire show.
No.
I also really love this tiny kernel of if we didn't know that Richard wasn't not sleeping with Magdalena, it wouldn't have, you know what I mean? It ended up being a plot point, and I don't even really we didn't need it.
No, we absolutely did not. It's just there.
It's just there. It's just there. It's fine.
It's just there that Galavant did sleep with Magdalena, but Richard didn't. But I think that is also helpful in their relationship because they are both such children that I think that if they had both slept with the same woman, there's no way that they would be able to be friendly. But they have not both slept with the same woman.
They would not be buddy-buddy at all,
No.
I think. Because it would become into a very different kind of measuring contest. And that's it.
Exactly.
And so they go off on this drunken quest.
Yes, I think that's a good way to phrase it. Drunken side quest.
I think it's a quest.
Yeah.
And they're desperately trying to stay quiet. Well, trying. Giant quotes around trying to stay quiet. They try to stay quiet when, it means something, right? When they're sneaking past the guards.
Yeah.
They stop singing for that one moment. But, they definitely loudly proclaim they're off on a secret mission to kill a person. Oh, to kill the king.
To kill
Oh,
the king.
to kill your brother. And even when they finally get to the room to do it, Richard keeps interrupting with things. No, before we get there, we have the drunken moment in the dungeon.
Yes, which we kind of touched on.
We kind of touched on briefly. That's where Galavant uncomfortably flirts with Isabella's mom.
Yep.
Because he's drunk.
And then collapses.
And says something about your pretty brain exploded all over your face or something.
Which is fantastic.
And then he drags Richard back out of the dungeon. They go up to Kingsley's room and they're about to do it. But Richard keeps talking and he keeps saying things. And then, of course, the last thing he says of yes, and, please don't share what I shared with you. And Galavant, very drunk, is just share what? What are we talking about? And Richard is well, when I told you I'm a virgin.
Yeah.
And then the lights come on. Kingsley comes out of the back curtain. Is oh my, I think we've heard enough.
Separate half of the room. Because clearly what happened is that while the other two were on their drunken escapade through the palace, 1 or 2 or 20 guards overheard them, alerted Kingsley, and Kingsley just got himself ready for this ambush.
100%.
Was not even difficult.
No. So now, Galavant and the king both end up in the dungeon.
Yes, that's when
the chef and Gwen are in the dungeon.
Yep.
Oh, yes. And then Gareth brings them over to the dungeon, and all Richard wants to do is sing with Gareth the lullaby.
Yes, their little song. He wants to say goodbye to Gareth because he's, rightly so, concerned that he's going to die in the morning because there's no way that he can beat Gareth in a fight. And there's no way that Gareth is just going to let him win in front of everybody anyway.
Yeah. And also, Kingsley has already offered Gareth, like,
a job.
I'll give you land and a title and women.
Whatever you want.
Either really fat or really skinny. You'll have both fat and skinny women. This running, it's so weird. It's like the more I hear the joke, the less angry I am about it, but I'm still angry about it.
I think the less angry I am about it because it's just like...
I'm conflicted.
It doesn't even register as a joke to me because it's not funny. It's kind of like the detail about the king not sleeping with Magdalena. I'm like, what is this doing here? Why?
I know.
What if we just deleted that line? Wouldn't have changed the narrative in any way, shape, or form.
I know.
It's just
it's weird.
It's just a little 2015. Just to remind us when the show was produced and written.
I mean, and I
written and produced.
You know what I think it is? I think they were trying to go for something and go for an extreme to make it funny.
Okay.
And I'm not saying it is funny. I'm just saying it's interesting. I think it's interesting that a guy's type is either very, to quote his words, unhealthy skinny, or like very, very large and nothing in between.
Yeah.
And there's like a cartoon weird, like uncanny valley about that would be somebody's type. And I guess that's the joke. I don't find it particularly funny. I just find it less and less offensive the more I hear it, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
We're getting
I'm just
jaded
living
to
my
it.
truth, man. I don't know.
We're just getting jaded as the show continues.
It's just is what it is at this point, I guess. So to sum up real quick the end of this, because a lot of things happen very quickly.
All at once. Yep.
Gareth has an attack of conscience. The first thing he does is free the king and free Galavant.
I do enjoy that before he has his attack of conscience. Conscious? Conscience. His moment of... It doesn't matter.
His moment in the sun.
When he comes to that realization, it is partly inspired by Richard's magical lullaby. Which Richard begins singing in the dungeon, and then it does that. It reminds me of cartoons you would watch as a kid, right? Where someone is singing a song, and then magically, like, the entire town can hear it. And it just kind of, like, brings this spirit of brotherhood and love and joy to everyone it reaches. Like, two people are fighting, and they stop fighting, and two people are, whatever. But Gareth sits up in bed hearing the song, and is like, the song! And then the next day starts his plan.
I know. Like, it changed his heart overnight.
I know. It's great. I love it. It's fantastic.
Because I love that Gareth... Like, look, Gareth is an extremely loyal person.
Yeah.
It would take a lot for him to turn on King Richard.
Yes.
And, I think he was pushed to his limit. I think he was like, I'm not going to fight King Richard to the death. Like, I've spent X number of years defending him. Like, I would never.
Like, it's one thing to kill King Richard's champion, who also happens to be Galavant. It's another thing entirely to actually kill King Richard himself.
And I think, for all his bluster, Gareth is just, he's just a very loyal person. And like, this is one of his, like the positive sides of his character that we hardly ever get to see because he's just kind of a big blustery
is
dude.
It loyal or is it like lawful evil?
I don't know. Hard to say. Hard to say. They kind of didn't explain it. So Gareth frees the king and frees Galavant. He does this because he knows the king won't survive on his own, so he sends Galavant with him.
Yep.
And basically ships him out with the pirates to just like, look, go as far away as possible and you'll survive. And that's it. And he promises Galavant that he won't hurt anyone else in the dungeon and he'll make sure they're safe. And so when he goes back to the throne room, they're just like, hey, where are Galavant and King Richard? Oh, I must have slept in. All right, well, do me a favor and kill everyone else in the dungeon. He goes down to the dungeon. He frees everybody in the dungeon, which leads to a very funny scene of them trying to punch him and knock him out. And nobody can do it.
I love that Gwen is the one who goes the absolute hardest.
She's, it felt like the axe, like the axe for Timbercats. She's had a hard day. She needs this.
She needs this.
Even though it was completely ineffectual, like it was still really nice to watch Gwen just go, go, go.
Now, Gareth does keep one of them. He decides to keep Sid as insurance and lets everyone else go. And what I like about this is that Galavant and Gareth have an understanding. And the understanding is that Gareth will keep Sid from harm as long as Galavant keeps Richard from harm.
And away from the castle.
And
so he comes back to the throne room, having done nothing that the supposed king and queen have asked of him. And Kingsley sort of gets up and very blusterly is just, like, I'll dispatch you myself, and then is stabbed in the back by Magdalena.
Literally.
And then there's this moment of, like, Gareth and Magdalena having this understanding. And Gareth just sort of taking the seat next to her.
Yeah. Gareth gets a promotion. I think that she tells him, like, congratulations or something to that effect.
She says promotion.
Yeah, like she alludes to the fact that this is a promotion, and he's like, great. And so Gareth is now king. Now, she was interviewing consorts, which was the word I was looking for last week when I was attempting to discuss Galavant's role in her court. She was interviewing consorts, and so it's clear that Gareth and her, at least right now, I don't know if this is going to change in season 2, but I don't think the intention is for the two of them to have that sort of relationship. The intention is just for the two of them to just kind of co-rule the kingdom. But I guess TBD, because the season ends with far more questions than it does answers. And I like that the jester sings that literally.
Yeah, I know.
Like it
definitely
is
a lot of fourth wall breaking there.
Like, what's going to happen with Galavant and Richard? What's going to happen with Magdalena and Gareth, who is now king? And then, of course, Isabella. Because Sid was kept as insurance. Isabella and team run away from the dungeon. And who did they go to? Cousin Harry. Because else would they go for refuge? Exactly. And Cousin Harry has built Isabella this little, just like, jewelry box of a bedroom.
It's just it's a jail cell.
It's a jail cell,
that's
but it's
built
dressed
to look
up
very pretty
in velvet and soft things, but it's very small. It looks like a jewelry box. And he puts her in it, and she's just kind of there. And that's where the season ends.
And the show ends.
That's where the season ends, yeah.
And I love that there's all this unanswered stuff. I love that. It's just such a clean palette for like season 2. Yeah. And I don't want to go too much over time. So do you have one more thing? Because I think I have one.
I mean, I guess my one more thing would just be like my overall feelings about the ending of season 1 going into season 2.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Which is that when this was airing, I watched season 1 and I elected not to continue with the show for season 2. And honestly, and I know I've already said this, I think it's because I'm not sold on Galavant.
Like, you mean the namesake of the show?
The namesake of I think it's because I'm still not sold on him. And so some part of me was like, I don't really want to watch this will they won't they anymore. I'm over it. Now, upon, having watched the show a second time now, I'm intrigued by season 2. There are things that I'm interested in, but I think that independent of this conversation with you, this recorded conversation that we're having,
Yes, for our listeners to hear.
I don't know that I would have continued. And I think it's because you had to give me like little breadcrumbs of things like, oh, there's going to be more Galavant and Richard in season 2. Don't worry. And I'm like, all right, I'm interested. And you're like,
I'm not going to lie. There's a ton of Galavant and Richard.
And you're like, oh, Richard is going to have kind of a neat character arc. This will be interesting. And I'm like, all right, I'm in. You know? But I don't know. I think I needed the show to give me a little bit more of that in order to keep me going.
That's fair. I think that's fair. I mean, between the 2 seasons, there's more character development in season 2.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think season 1 is probably the more quote unquote complete season. But I don't know if that's because it's a much smaller sort of microscopic. You know what I mean? We're kind of like zoomed in on Valencia and like traveling to Valencia and all this thing. But like in season 2, it's much more spread out, right? Because, you know, you've got all these people in all their corners, right?
That makes sense.
And you have to kind of see how they come back together again.
Yeah, / how quickly that happens.
Right. The party is 100% split. So... But I think some interesting character development happens in season 2. So I'm interested to see your opinion.
Yeah, I'm excited. I am excited now that you've told me. I think
you'll be entertained. I don't know if you'll like it more or less than season 1. I'll leave it at that.
I mean, is there a song that beats the Secret Mission song? Because I feel like there isn't. Like, I feel like there simply cannot be.
It's fair. Like, is there a song that beats the pirate song and the Secret Mission and the
you know the Let's Poison the Royals song
and a happy ending for us? Yeah. I do say we get more Chef and Gwen.
Okay, I like that. I love the Chef and Gwen. They're great together. Yeah. I mean, I especially like Gwen. The Chef is fine.
But yes, I'm looking forward to see what your opinion of season 2 will be. My one more thing is sort of very quick. When Galavant is, I think it's when Galavant is drunk. He's sort of pointing out people in the cell, and then he points out the little red stick man.
Yes.
And Gwen is like, oh, he remembers you. And I just thought that was very charming.
I love that.
I liked it.
It was very sweet. It's not often that Gwen points out a silver lining. But
I know, right?
You know, once in a blue moon. She gets there.
He remembered you. But no, I enjoyed season 1. It kept me interested for season 2. But I also completely understand being like, and I'm done because Galavant isn't doing it for you.
Because I'm over him.
And I'm over it.
But you know what, Joy? For you, and because of the promises that you have made, I will continue watching this show.
Not just because we record a podcast together, and it would be really funny just to listen to me talk about season 2 without you, I think. It would be like, oh no, but what do I... It would just be a lot of that. It would be a lot of stuttering. But I believe next week we are going to be breaking up the 2 seasons with a movie. We're going to be watching Robin Hood and Men in Tights.
Ah, yes, so that I can understand the reference point that everyone keeps giving me when they explain this show.
I guess it's not a terrible reference point. It's just not the one I would have used.
I mean, it's like roughly the right time period, and there are people singing. Are those the 2 things that they have in common?
Probably.
And it's kind of irreverent, I assume, based on what I know about what's his face.
I mean, Mel Brooks.
Yes.
You mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay, that was an excellent way to end this podcast episode. We're doing it.
Yeah, we're done.
Okay, listeners, so between now and then, we would love to hear from you. Please check us out at Binge O'Clock Pod on Twitter and Facebook, where you can tell us about a song that instantly makes you feel at peace. You can also email us at bingeoclockpod@gmail.com. And don't forget, we have a Patreon. Find us at patreon.com/BachPod.
That's right. And tell your friends, tell your family, tell your loved ones, tell the live lobsters in your life about Binge O'Clock, and we will see you next time.